Gather round. Please do use the space. We're not amplified today, but we will be using microphones for the benefit of those who are online. So do spread out. I've got a stool because I've got a really bad back. Likewise, if anyone is struggling with standing up, do make seats available for them if they request them. But thanks so much for coming along. I come from a show business family, and the reason I became a composer was not to talk in public, so this doesn't come naturally to me. I thought I'd also mention that this is probably going to be the first time you're going to see me do one of these events sober. I entered sobriety about two months ago, joined a fellowship, and it's taught me a lot about stuff, not least about the importance of getting together with people, which this is very much about. I'm very much a typical neurodiverse ADHD introvert, which is why I became a composer, and it's not a particularly healthy way to live life. So hopefully today will be one of many events we will have that bring people together. So first thing I want to do is we're joined by some fantastic team members, lots of friends here, but I'll just go around in the order I can see them. We've got Alan Glenn over here who's doing sound. Alan was a professor at Edinburgh College. We have a very poor record at Crow Hill / Pianobook / Audio Incubator for getting people out of their educational institutions and encouraging them to live the life of a misfit. We have Simon Fife here, who is someone I really think that we all need to thank, because Simon has basically kept Pianobook going. He is the head of the community. He's the person who checks all the samples, who curates all of the demos, and he was the lone OG at Pianobook whilst it was under the custodianship of Spitfire. So I'd like a special round of applause to Simon, please. We have Robbie Crawford, who was also in college until I encouraged him to leave. Robbie joined Labs and Spitfire and my YouTube channel about 2 weeks before lockdown. And we agreed that we'd spend lockdown together. So we have a tight trauma bond together. But a lot of the amazing videos that you see come out of Crow Hill are filmed, edited by fantastic Robbie here. We've got Pete Clark, who is basically the webmaster of Pianobook. It's his code that we've been using, and I know has got some very exciting stuff to share with us today. Who else? We've got someone who's always hiding up there, Anna. Anna's a producer at Crow Hill, who is responsible for delivering so much of the fantastic content, handles a lot of the social media, but also has done all of the logistics for today, including the amazing spread, the alcohol, all of that kind of stuff. So round of applause to Anna. Great stuff. And then we've got Stephen Talamy over here, who is, I would consider my right-hand man in this venture, who spotted early on that I was going to have one of many success problems with Pianobook, and thankfully came to the rescue and has overseen how many websites have been built now? 3 or 4. And tends to be at the end of a bat phone when things go terribly wrong. Like, I don't think WeTransfer is the right way to distribute these samples, Stephen. Stephen's going to do a little bit of a chat later, but I'd love to have a round of applause for him. Great stuff. So, what's it all about? I think that I would like to sum up what I think is my motivation behind all of these ventures, and it's one word, and it's support. On looking back over my career, over my upbringing, as I said, I come from show business stock. My mum was very famous, which doesn't mean rich. The reason why Hollywood uses British actors is not because of our Shakespearean tradition. It's because we're piss cheap. So whilst there were times where mum had money, there was also times when she was resting. But the one thing that she did give me was support, emotional support and encouragement. She bought me a knackered old piano and paid for some piano lessons and made sure I didn't give them up. And it's something that I think that is not something that we all enjoy. And I think that it's the one thing that I think is cross community. Support is not based on the socioeconomic group that you're from. I know plenty of people who come from very wealthy backgrounds who are really discouraged from entering into playing musical instruments, possibly creating a career. So I think that support and encouragement is something that only happens when, universally when people come together. So this for me is genuinely my driving force with these ventures. When I set up Spitfire Audio, my accountant said, it's a really bad idea selling your friends stuff. And that's lived with me to this day, this idea that I'm somehow profiting out of my fellow composers. For me, it's about providing opportunity, support, encouragement. Something that I've always said to the labs team was, it's like the art. I don't suppose we could turn that down. Could we turn your earphones down? Because I'm just hearing myself back, and I hate the sound of my own voice, surprisingly. Something I said to the labs team is, imagine it like an art shop. Art shops, every town has one, and they're not there for professional artists. They're for people who like to draw and paint. And I think that there's this incredible kind of gate-kept barrier to picking up music. And I think that we all know, having made music and made sounds, that it's one of the most pleasurable, one of the most enjoyable and healthy escapes you can enter into. So for me, it's about creating art shops which encourage people not to work on their draftsmanship skills and then do a still life but to just express themselves from their imagination, just like we do, certainly I do when I buy my kids pencils and pens and stuff. Encourage them to do stuff from their imagination. The idea when I was younger that you would sit at a piano and make shit up was completely alien to the concept of music education. And I think it puts a lot of people off. I'm working with an amazing composer at the moment who said she never studied because she didn't want to play other people's music. And I think that's fair enough. So that's the kind of the motivation behind all of that. What is today about, or this evening? It's our first in real life. I'm going to be doing a very quick intro. Then we've got Pete, who is not only a webmaster, he's a fantastic graphic designer, and we have a logo to show you for the all-new Audio Incubator. We have some amazing friends here, which I'll announce in a second. And then I'll talk about the future as we see it. Nothing is fait accompli. It's just what I've experienced over the last few years with Pianobook, with Spitfire, with Crow Hill, how I think we can take this forward. We'll have a break, grab some more sliced meat, and then have a Q&A, a powwow. For any of you who don't like speaking out loud, we've got this thing called Slido. If you dial this number 141-8867, that's 141-8867 into Slido, you'll be able to put questions up there totally anonymously, and Simon will route them through to me. Before we meet Pete, I just want to talk about why the rebrand. Something that we have always struggled with Pianobook was where it came from, which was an idea for an album. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to do like a sample library? Wouldn't it be great to involve people? Then I thought, well, how do we involve people in samples? I get people to sample their pianos. and then thought about, well, what's really romantic about pianos is they have a lifespan. They rely on this bended bit of wood in the middle of them, the soundboard, and eventually that bend disappears and they become useless. So no piano sounds the same from one day to another. It reminds me of a nice kind of purple patch in a film called Sideways about wine. It's very, very similar. So for me, it was about this romance, about the idea that someone in New Zealand could play a piano and the next day anyone around the world could play them playing their piano. And for me, that strikes me as a quite a romantic notion, but I think it's becoming ever more important in this day and age of AI. And that is the story behind these things, the reality behind these things. Every piano, whether it be made by Steinway or Yamaha, sounds different, but it sounds more different the longer it's alive because of the punishing children that have jumped on it, or the various performances, the atmospheric conditions, all of that kind of stuff. So I think that Pianobook stroke AudioInc really has a place moving forward for composers, for music makers, as a place to come and find stuff that will be made the old-fashioned way. I know of sample companies that are using machine learning to create their samples, and that's great. We'll get all of these perfect sounds. But I think the very nature of what we do as people who are novices, people who are great at making samples, but I think everyone gets this idea that it's about capturing the soul and the spirit of these things and the story that goes into them. And something that I really want us to move forward with is not losing those stories. I think they're so important. And certainly I find them very useful when trying to flog ideas to directors and go, oh, this nose flute was played by Napoleon's cousin and all of that kind of stuff. So the rebrand, I think for me, is we're definitely starting a new chapter. I don't think it's unfair to say that I'm really disappointed by what has happened with Pianobook. It was the result of one of many success problems, one of which was there were thousands of sample libraries and hundreds of thousands of people downloading them, and that costs a lot of money. And it just got to a point where I couldn't bear that burden anymore, and was encouraged by the company that I'd set up to let them take it over. And when I retired, they gave me a very enthusiastic view towards the future of Pianobook. For one reason or another, I don't think it particularly flourished throughout their custodianship, and I'm really glad to have brought it back. But I think that we need to kind of start a new chapter, and I think it's actually about analysing those mistakes that we made and not falling into that trap again, that trap of having to corporatize it, if you will, making something that is scalable and sustainable. And I think that we can move forward with 4 or 5. How long has it been now, Stephen? Pianobook? 6 years. 6 years. Wow. 6 years. It's kind of a user manual for the future. So I think that this is a great opportunity to kind of go, well, rebranding is very dangerous. It's a little bit like switching platforms and stuff. It can mean that people fall away or lose a sense of who we are. I remember when Virgin got sold and they changed their name to, was it like Avanti or something? It's like, what's wrong with Virgin? But I think that we've always struggled with the name. It's a naff ripoff of Facebook, which is a platform I don't particularly admire. But also the reason we switched from just being pianos to any instrument was it was very wisely pointed out to me by a member of the community that not everyone had their, access to pianos. And in fact, there was a socio-economic kind of thing in that to people having access to pianos. And the very nature of Pianobook is an access all areas to all, from all necks of the wood, from all parts of the world. You know, something that we really experienced with the company I set up, Spitfire, was that no matter how accessible we made things, that people simply work in parts and live in parts of the world where those, a quid is a lot of money. So that's something that I think is something that is going to remain really important to Pianobook, is inclusivity, diversity, opportunity, but most of all, support and encouragement. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Pete, not only a fantastic webmaster, but a great graphic designer, but also makes great presentations. He says, building it up. So, welcome, Pete. So we're using this for the people who have joined us online, and welcome to those of us who have joined us online. We've also got people on a Google Meet who are looking at you through that. Yeah. So as we pass the mic, I would suggest holding it around here, because we won't know if we're popping in spitting.
Right.
Pete.
Okay. Hello, everybody.
This is the right one. Sorry.
Thank you. Yes. I am Pete. I am, as Christian says, the person who made the website. So if there's any problems you've had with it, sorry. Hopefully, though, we can improve things as we go. What else? Oh, yeah. I make music myself. So I am one of us. I do that mostly as a hobby, but I'm as involved and invested in this thing being good, hopefully, as you all are. So with that in mind, let's see what I've written here. Right, so Audio Incubator, as Christian says, it exists to support individuals on their creative journey. The branding must be professional without being too corporate. It should be visually neutral, not a follower of trends. Timeless. So it is my pleasure to present to you it is just some triangles, but there's some thought behind it, so allow me to go on. Here it is with a red square behind it. But it's not too red, because that might look a bit banky. It forms part of the complete logo here, Audio Incubator. We also have, as you'll have noticed, we're calling it AudioInc. So we've got a kind of cut-down version too that can be used where necessary. And we can separate elements out for super clean design. And we've got these nice little... Why is it different here to there?
I don't know.
Oh, because that's the next one. I understand now.
See.
Yeah, no, I understand. We've got these cool badges that we can stick on things. And this sort of, I would like this as a sticker for my laptop, and Christian's going to get it tattooed on his other arm, aren't you? So how did we arrive? Oh, skipped one. Easter eggs. That makes no sense. How did we arrive at this? Easter eggs. Right. So does anyone know what's hidden within this logo?
Yeah.
The arrow, yes. How about this one? It's a bear, I've shown it. Something's amiss here. It's a bear. So anyway, what we did was we took a stylized A and the play symbol that you may recognize from the world of hi-fi. And we sort of mashed those together, and we're back to the triangles again. But this also, in my mind, represents playing instruments, sampling, and composing, these three elements of what we're about, that kind of, hopefully by the time we get to composing, we've inspired someone else to play some instruments and do some more sampling and more composing in this virtuous circle. So how does this feed through into the web design philosophy? So the goal will be simplicity, and the approach of support and guidance is going to carry through into the visual language of the website. So the language, as in words, will be kept simple. The submission process will be clear and easy to understand. Visual feedback will let you know what's happening at every stage in that process. We're going to have some resources like templates and guides and things like that to get you started. And we will invite feedback to iterate on the user experience. And something I'm really keen to do is some in-person usability testing where maybe I get on a screen share with you and ask you to carry out some task and then watch where it isn't quite as simple as I thought it was and then make it better after that. So I think that's about it. So exciting, yes. Let's see the animation again. Look at that. Oh.
Correct response.
So good. So thank you very much for listening.
But is there not like what we didn't do?
Oh yeah, there is. There's an extra bit. It's a sort of DVD extras. So here's what we didn't do. My initial idea was to go purely typographic and to create this version of the logo where just create this AI mark from just text. But the problem with that, you know where this is going. And then someone said to me that AI is toxic in our industry and there's no point aligning ourselves with something AudioInc has nothing to do with. And I said, well, why did you call it Audio Incubator then? But anyway, that's where we were. So the AI had to go. So, Levi, let's see the animation again.
Something I will return to is that idea of support beyond sampling and making music. I think there's a lot of interesting ideas, knowledge. It's something I'm noticing from the YouTube channel is there is loads of people who watch it who are graphic designers who work in other creative industries, and I think there's no point in not being inclusive with those types as well. We've got some friends here. I'd love to introduce you to Stephen, who's not only a right-hand man in this venture, but a very dear friend and a huge support, particularly over the last few years. Mr. Stephen Tallamy.
Hello everybody. I've not got any slides or any fancy animations. I'm sorry about that. I didn't bring any of that. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the origins of where Pianobook came from. In case you don't know, like if you were at the very beginning of Pianobook when it launched 6 years ago, every single sample pack landed on my laptop at home and I manipulated it and gave feedback. And then eventually we found Simon, who ended up picking.
He's busy.
Yeah, he's busy. Who picked up a lot of that, but it was a lot of that, from those early success days. But I think one of the most important things about a community, and an important thing about it, is a community doesn't just exist without it having some fuel in the fire. And I think that is an important thing for us to remember. If you don't have something to gather around and some additional fuel all the time, it always needs to have that energy. And Christian always provided that for us as a community, inspired us to go and do something, whether it's when he was doing his weird experiments with putting a claustrophobic piano, putting things on a duvets, all of those kind of things inspired people to go and do something different and think about doing those things themselves. So that's great, but Christian might be busy doing a film score or might be doing Crow Hill things or doing other things. And so really all I wanted to say to everyone, as well as hello everybody, it's really nice to see a lot of people. Hi Andre, it's nice to see you here. Great to be here. But lots of people that some of you may have worked with me over the years. It's really nice to see you. But is to help us with that fuel in the fire. Okay, so we can't always depend on Christian to do that. So if you're interested in helping out and inspiring other people, and you're willing to do something We'll do the community projects. We'll do all those. And they're great fun, except for maybe the gate one wasn't as fun. The gate was horrible. But a lot of the other ones were quite a lot of fun and quite magical. And, I'm, honoured to have been involved in those things along with an amazing crew. But if you can think of ways in which you can be contributing fuel to inspire other people as well, because I think what we saw over the last year is that fuel had disappeared and the fire sort of diminished a little bit, and it was difficult for people to engage with it because they didn't know what to do. They wouldn't know what to do next. Do I just go and sample another kalimba? What do they do next? So if you can think of ways, and online as well, people who are watching online, please think about ways in which you can help contribute to the fire of Audio Incubator, because that's what will keep things going. Otherwise, the community will continue and it will be great, but it won't go to where we got it to, before we lost custodianship of it. It won't get to those levels unless we keep putting in the fuel. So please do think about how you can do that. Get in touch with us. We'll be very glad to hear it. And shall we introduce our other honourable guest?
It's a real treat to introduce a gentleman who has really put a lot of fuel in the fire and has some amazing stories to tell, but is also a massive talent, has flown all the way from the United States of America to be here today. Owen Bolig, otherwise known as Obolig. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Is it Obolig or Obolig?
Everyone was pronouncing it Obolig, and I just didn't want to correct anyone, so I just kind of let them do it. So, hi, I'm Owen. Why am I speaking? I don't really know. I didn't know that I was going to speak until Christian came up to me like 10 minutes ago and said that I should come up, so I guess I should tell you my involvement with the community. I used to work for a very small startup, and I saw Pianobook, and I was like, hey, I want to add something new, so I posted, and I got a huge response by seeing Christian talk about the instrument that I posted, and gave me a huge amount of adrenaline and inspired me to continue to work, continue to post things on Pianobook. So I think I should talk about that. I'm going to be short because I didn't have anything planned, but I think that one of the things we should consider when we're starting up AudioInc is incentive for people to post to AudioInc. In the beginning, I believe that when you are learning, all you really need is people interacting with your instrument and reviewing your instrument. So in my opinion, and I don't work for AudioInc, so please just take this with a grain of salt. We should be rewarding people that are reviewing products to make it so that they want to review. And that will give the creators more incentive to get even better. And then once you get better, maybe AudioInc themselves can promote said person, similar to how they promoted me, and they've promoted other people as well, until they get to the point where there's someone like Nami Audio is a very good friend of mine, and he got highlighted a good number of times because he's very good, and he continued to get better, and to the point where he has his own company. And believe it or not, I recently started my own company as well. Believe it or not. And I think that this AudioInc can be used to support people, as you said, to the point where they are confident enough to start their own company. I think that's a huge deal. I have some other ideas, but I'm not going to say it on camera because then it will seem more official. So I'm just going to leave it at that, unless there's anything else I should say.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Bravo, thank you. Cheers. Yeah, I think something that I'm proudest of that we achieved with Labs was proof that you could create something that didn't fall into a specific group. It wasn't for amateurs, and it didn't have that awful word professional on, which always means the opposite. That you can create environments and tools and stuff that anyone at any position in their development or whatever their ambitions are can interact with and use. And that's something, particularly during the lockdown, became really obvious. And I think part of the disappointment of the last 2 years and not being, part of this and not having the composer walks and stuff like that was the power that creating these silly little objects and duvets over pianos can have over people, whether it just be escaping, whether it be dreaming of doing something, whether it be forming friendships and collaborations, or indeed taking those tough life decisions. And I've met a lot of people who, since the lockdown and because of Labs and because of Pianobook, chucked in their jobs and they're having a go of it. And I think, why not? Why not? We have a winner. I just wanted to announce this, just to kind of, so I'm not just blethering on about AudioInc, but we have a winner of the... Yes, and we got a load of entries for that, which was 85 entries for that. And this is, again, it's just a way of celebrating people's commitment to having a go, putting their stuff out there and having people listen to it. And I think that, and it's something, Simon, you pointed out to me, that it's not just important for people to take part, it's for people to see that people are taking part. So it's like, I'll have a go at that next time, or when I'm ready, I'll have a go at that, or there's a place I can go and go, ooh, should I have a go at this? So we'll keep on doing these, but just in the next podcast next week, we'll actually play it, but we don't have a system here to play it, and I want to do it justice. But the winner is... I should have had a drum roll there. Noah Stockton. For their track Reminisce, and it took 3 people to argue about how to spell reminisce today in the South Bank Centre where we got together. But congratulations, Noah, if you're there, if you're listening. If not, we'll reach out very soon. Lots of competitions and lots of very exciting stuff coming up. So the future. Pianobook versus AudioInc. What's going to change? Well, I want to assure us, let's look at what Pianobook, I think, its strengths. I think its main attraction immediately is free sounds. Its opportunities, the idea that, I might try making a sample, or, all the way to setting up your own company. The big surprise for me are these collaborations, that in fact, instead of people just turning their backs on something because they didn't feel they could do it, say coding a GUI or anything like that, actually found new friends and collaborators. And in the last NAMM I went to, it's amazing to see these people who were like they're like, you're going to be best man at his wedding, and it's Pianobook that's brought this together. It wasn't the intention, but I think it's a really wonderful thing that's come of it. Service, I think it's really something that can be incredibly fulfilling, even if you're not wanting to throw yourself into it as a career or indeed give up your job. Just being a part of it and helping out, I think, can be incredibly helpful. And I certainly get so much joy. I got really criticized for crying on screen the other day because it looked like I was faking it. I wasn't. I'm moved to tears. I'm on antidepressants, so I can't actually make tears, which is why it looks fake. But it was really, I think, just being a part of it is a really big deal. Recognition, I think, is really important, as Owen mentioned, that adrenaline buzz, just acknowledgement. I remember when I was, struggling as a young composer, it was a very lonely experience, and you never got any feedback. So I think this is one of the strengths of Pianobook. there's an opportunity to market yourself. And I think, a great example of that is Daniel Keane, who looked to what we were doing at Pianobook and what I was doing on my YouTube channel and had a go. And he's hugely successful. I know that he's working with Gary Barlow at the moment as an example. Feedback on your sounds and feedback on your music, but also learning, which is a bit of a swear word, but I think there's no better way to learn than to do. And I think that there's so much we can share and so much we can get from each other. One of the extraordinary things about music is, I remember the first day I worked with Anne Dudley, I did I worked with her for about 3 years, was that, and I'm sure you all experience this, is no matter where you are on your journey, and Anne Dudley, Oscar-winning composer, every time I did something, she went, "Oh, how did you do that?" And every time she did something, I was learning. And I think that's what's really magical about the confluence of creativity and technology. So what's AudioInc going to be about? Well, it's going to be about all of those things. I don't want us to stop doing any of these things. But I do also want to answer these issues of sustainability, of inclusivity, of opportunity. I don't like the fact that up until very recently, we bought our sounds off people who didn't make music. I think it's quite a queer, symbiotic relationship with music tech, which is why I think many of us understand the value of that amazing Bechstein, where are you, from Arp Quadra over there, over and above something with a million round robins and all of that. No offense to people who go to those efforts, that's great. But I think that we have a shortcut to what's useful and understand that actually with a good sound, just one sound, there's no such thing as writer's block anymore, certainly not for me. So something that I really want to look into, and I think it's something that I personally, but I think the community at large can really help with, is people finding a commercial opportunity. To help people in enterprise, to help people produce a service to their fans. I think a great example is, I forget the name of the manager of Led Zeppelin, but up until this point in history, bands would go to venues and the venues would make the merchandise. And this guy just went, fuck that, this looks like shit, but also they're making all this money out of merchandise. I speak to so many people online about, their lives in the music industry and how they didn't get into this to, excuse my French, fucking make t-shirts or sell t-shirts. Fact of the matter is, if you don't do it, other people will do it on your behalf. Other people will copy your sounds. Other people will take advantage of what your fans, your followers want, which is a bit of you. You're going to see at Crow Hill, we've got some incredible collaborations coming. And I think that really artists are really turning onto this idea that it's not just the records they make, the concerts they give, the t-shirts they sell. They also know that they can sell a song to someone else, like, Sia does to Rihanna. But also, on the other side, we spend, not all of us, but a lot of us spend a lot of time making these worlds, these sounds. And that's part of what we do. And that's something that can be commercialized. It's a bad word. It can become part of an enterprise. And I think that what I'm really interested in is Pianobook not making the kind of numbers that Spitfire or Output makes by not doing incredibly expensive libraries and stuff. I know people who are the kind of acts that, opening acts on the various different Glastonbury stages. I know the difference that earning a few £1,000s from a sample pack will make to the choices they make and their ability to keep on entertaining their fans, keep on making music. So I think there's a massive opportunity here that I'd love to be a part of. And I think that there's help to be given in the sense of people having a brand. Dan Keen's another great example of that. Someone who people feel they know. And it was Gary Barlow who reached out to me and said, he seems like a nice guy, he seemed clever, talented. And I put them in touch with each other, and off they went. And I think that in itself is an important thing that we can offer. The other thing, and I know I've spoken about this often, is production music. I have been in conversations with Sony, and they are very interested by the idea of a production music library, or library music library, that is based around instruments, not just a piano album, an oboe album, but the fire extinguisher album. There'll be hundreds of kalimba albums, obviously. Basically, as I'm sure you've all experienced, it's very similar to that thing that, I forget his name, moustache. Frank Zappa said that, talking about music's like dancing about architecture. Well, talking about sound and is even more difficult. But my experience with directors, particularly with needle drop, is they rarely actually know what they're looking for until they find it. And I think if there's one thing they do know is, I quite like cello, or I fancy a bit of piano music, or desperate for some kalimba, or actually, music made out of a fire extinguisher, that sounds interesting. So I do think that there's an opportunity for a very interesting, esoteric production music library, which will be an opportunity. I still underwrite my career with production music. Spitfire was funded totally from one track that did really well for me. So I do believe that there's going to be a massive kickback against the kind of music that sounds like it's been made by computers or AI. And I think that what we will be able to do is take these instruments that have these stories behind us that inspire us, and create music that is ultimately very human. And I think because of the whole kind of aesthetic of Pianobook, AudioInc, Crow Hill, this encouragement of maybe not hitting that cue button, not tightening stuff to grids, not worrying that piano or kalimba is out of tune, I think will make for a very interesting offering. The most important thing is, at its height, there were 300,000 users of Pianobook. So it's a huge potential conglomerate of composers. And therefore, we won't just be another one of those also-ran production music libraries. We can create something immense and help each other to create something immense. And I'll be very open to ideas of how we can make it a very kind of egalitarian, inclusive production music library. But that is, I think, a major impetus really for me to continue, that actually we become nose to tail, from the sounds to people actually having music on the telly, on films, etc., etc. So I've talked about commercialization. I don't want that to be, I don't want that to create fear that it's all going to be about the dollar. It's not. I think that there are going to be some very strict rules to people who want to use AudioInc as a platform to distribute stuff. No free, no play. Everyone will have to offer up stuff for free. And I think Owen's ideas about earning your stripes, that kind of stuff, is very important. If you want to be part of a community, you've got to be part of a community, not just a service industry into that. I think that I love the idea of maintaining sandboxes for everyone, regardless of abilities, where people can put stuff in that's highly experimental, that people can help out with to improve. I don't want, something we always said is, we don't want Pianobook to become the MySpace of sound. Having said that, we also want people to have a go and feel that they're not going to be criticized for their efforts. So I think there's a way of creating specific environments where people understand this is someone having a go. This is someone who grabbed an opportunity because they found an amazing sound they were passing by on their iPhone. But I think that the most important thing for AudioInc is that we don't have any more of these success problems, which result in us having to make poor decisions. Sustained success. And putting artists in control, I think, is absolutely key. So what I'm hoping to do is that eventually with AudioInc, I would really like there to be an opportunity for everyone, if they fulfill certain criteria, to be able to monetize what they put on AudioInc as an opportunity, as an eventual goal. And the way I'm creating a business deck for potential investors is that at the beginning tier, with no extras, no additional marketing or anything like that, I would like to take a maximum of 15% as a kind of administration, and for the artists, the samplists, the sound makers, the soundsmiths to take the other 85%. It's basically a record deal literally in reverse. In so doing, it's not going to be a hugely profitable enterprise. But for me, for the reasons I've explained, my motivations are differently. So this is the aim. I can't promise it, but this is what I'm going out and pitching with. So talking about the future, I think the key to the website for it to be scalable is autonomy. Stephen, you touched on everything landing on your desk. You have been handling a lot of stuff where the instruments don't know where the samples are, a common problem. So it is our objective to create a website, and we are taking a lot of the guts out of the existing Pianobook website. But yet again, another reason to start a new chapter. We will be shifting the database over. We'll be giving people the option to opt in, so it's not like you gave some samples, or you're allowing Pianobook to distribute them, and suddenly there's this new entity and distributing them without your permission. So that's something we will be doing. But we want to create an environment that's easy to use, that takes you through the process so that your sample instrument can find the samples, stuff like that. And I think that what we want to talk about is audio curation, so it doesn't become the MySpace of sound, that you can find the good stuff, or rather the stuff that other people are enjoying. And I think that is a process of rewards of people who are really contributing to the community, and I'd be very open to ideas there. The other thing that I'd love to talk about is whether we continue using third-party sites for the community, for communication. Crow Hill is using a thing called Discourse at the moment. And some of it's successful, some of it isn't. Where there is a request for interaction, it's hugely successful. But I would be very open to different ideas there. But I really want to see, I want AudioInc to be this opportunity of an idea that it can be a conduit for people coming together, exchanging ideas, creativity, and technical knowledge. A springboard to success in whatever way you define that, but also a conduit to create production music. I think it's a shame that we're creating all of these sounds and all of these composers are using it, and then all of that music is disappearing off into the ether. I think that we can contain that into something that benefits the entire community, and again, has that same spirit of support. The community portal thing is something I would really like your input on. It's really difficult because this is where there is a generational thing. I don't particularly like, is it Discord? Because for me, it's a long thread. My kids, when they look at a forum, go, "Oh, all right, Fred Flintstone, yeah, whatever you like." So I think that there is a solution to be found there, and to be creative. Not least, these weekly podcasts, people coming in on the the Google Meets, all of that kind of stuff. Another interesting way of communicating. So one of the success problems is the cost of running these type of environments. I've appealed to everyone to create a stopgap collaboration. The take-up hasn't been that excellent, but I think that we haven't been really clear about what we're hoping for. I'm going to be making a few videos this week about that. But if we can contribute to this collaboration, we will again stop any rush decisions where financing is concerned. I think if we can sell a library at a voluntary price, so if you want to buy it for £1, if you want to buy it for £100, completely up to you, donationware, if you will, I think that would be a great way of kicking the new chapter off. The burn. Currently, thanks to Stephen's excellence, we've managed to switch the servers. Has that happened yet?
Yep.
From something.
Yeah, so we're now on much cheaper way for delivery examples. We've had lots of ways of delivering. It's much cheaper now, so that's good. But we still got service that we're waiting for.
Yeah. So at its peak, Pianobook was costing $250,000 a year in server charges alone, so which is not an insignificant amount of money. That's why it went to a big company. We also, in order to attract people and to demand a fixed commitment out of them, we have to pay fair and competitive rates. So the burn of AudioInc is currently around the £10,000 to £15,000 a month mark, and that will go up as things start to warm up, which Simon tells me, thankfully, they really are. So the model I'm kind of looking into is I have some interested parties who are willing to make a private input in a more traditional investment model. And something I'm also looking into with a company called Mazars is crowdsourcing. Now, I have a friend who set up a beer company called Innocent Gun. For anyone who goes to Scotland, you'll be familiar with that beer, and said that he really enjoyed the crowdsourcing aspect of it because it felt like much more of a community. It feels to me like it really fits into our model. The reason I put this up is, one, to get feedback on how you would feel about a crowdsourcing model. And secondly, if any of you know of any private investors who may be interested in something that is community first, cash, much further down the line, I think that would be a good tax write-off. No, stop it. So this is just me being open. This is very, very early days. The more successful this stopgap collaboration is, the less quickly we'll have to rush into this. I like the idea of crowdsourcing and think it could be quite a lot of fun. So the roadmap that we're currently looking at is 2025. We'll continue with Pianobook as it is. There will be a beta AudioInc site that will be highly curated. Something I'm wanting to do is we will probably notice that there isn't a great amount of diversity in this room. And something I would like to do is to encourage artists to take part in this, and people, I guess, who profile themselves as who don't have a natural affinity to technology, but who are amazing creatives in their own right. So I'm hoping to do a video series called 12 Artists, 12 Months, going to artists, showing them how their soundsmithery can be shared with the community and how to monetize that. I want that content to be more diverse. I also think that everyone's sick of the sight of me, so I'm hoping to introduce some new faces. I'm talking to a brilliantly successful composer called Samuel Sim about possibly involving him more centrally as someone to help drive the community forward. But I know, for example, the first artist that I will be working with, helping make a sample library, helping put it up onto AudioInc, branding it, marketing it, is my good friend Bishi Bhattacharya. And really do believe that the route to inclusivity, and this is speaking as a father who has 2 daughters and would never want them to feel unwelcome in an environment like this, but also look at them looking to role models. I think the technique here is not to hone in or favor particular groups, but to make sure the net is thrown as widely as humanly possible and support is given. And that is something that we've proven ourselves on. So that's 2025. And in 2026, we will have a full launch of the site with full usability. And when I say that, that'll be hopefully this idea of autonomy, that certain criteria are fulfilled in order to create what I would refer to as the Bandcamp of sound. And this is very much tied into the direction that I've given Pete for the design. It's something very neutral where the content is king and people's expression, both sonically and visually, is what characterizes the website. I think that, I'm a big fan of Patreon as well, and I think that's a good model. That's a thing that's been set up by a total nutter of a musician. And I'd love to talk to him about how he went about setting that up. So I think that there will be a switch to AudioInc. There will be a switch where it'll have the same functionality, but hopefully be easier to use and give more feedback than Pianobook. But the full spec of what we will determine as our minimum viable product will probably not happen until 2026. So we're going to take it one step at a time. And because we are a community project, and I really want to come away from that idea of community because it sounds very carrot cake and incense but sticks, but it's basically going to be made by listening to everyone and by involving everyone. So new faces I spoke of, but this is something that Stephen touched on. How can we help you help us help you? I think that there's a lot of musicians, artists at the moment complaining about the fact that they're expected to set up YouTube channels, this, that, and the other. If you don't, your competitors will. There is an opportunity to R2D2 style, I'm showing my age, interface into the Crowhill network, the YouTube network, the AudioInc network, to really kickstart any efforts you make, whether that be on TikTok or X, or on YouTube, and that'll only help us. So the more we can help you do that, the more it'll help us. But as I said, there is an opportunity here. It's difficult sitting on your own. Actually, I find it more embarrassing sitting on my own talking to a camera than I do to you guys, and I'm fairly embarrassed now. But I would just urge any of you who are enthusiastic about it, you only need to look at the success of David Hilowitz, Dan Keane, who I mentioned lots, to see that there's an opportunity there. My own personal story, I'm busier than I've ever been as a composer, and that is definitely to do with my YouTube channel. And it's not because people think what I'm doing on my YouTube channel is particularly good or interesting or anything like that. The clients simply think they know me. And I think I'm a slightly hyped version of my true self, but I'm fairly true to myself on it. And, when it gets down to you and another composer, one orchestral demo sounds pretty similar to another orchestral demo to most people with untrained ears. And it simply is, it's a very natural human instinct to go to someone that you feel you know, because if you feel you know someone, you feel that you can trust them. And, with the jobs we do, certainly for those of us here who are applied musicians, composers, media composers, they're putting a huge amount of trust in you. So I'm a massive advocate of YouTube and social media, and we are here to help you if you want to help us. And simply having a presence and promoting what we do will help us. Moving back to the artist's idea. The idea for me is if you go online and check out Bishy's Instagram, she has a huge following. And what she will do by us helping her, she will bring that following into the realm of AudioInc. And it's not just about professional composers. It's about encouraging anyone to pick up a sample, anyone who has a computer, anyone who can afford to buy a little keyboard, to have a go. And I think that will be for the better good of, well, it's something that we can do in a time where things are very divided and divisive. And I've always said, this is really cheesy, but I've always said where there's music, there's harmony. And that is the end goal, is music and harmony. And that's where we all come from. So let me actually go back. Is that going to? Yeah. So we're going to take a short break, have some cold meats, pour yourself some wine. I'm going to have some more fizzy water. This is the Slido. If you don't want to speak, I'll basically be throwing open to questions from the floor. We'll be throwing open to questions from Google Meet. Simon's going to feed stuff through to me. Where I feel that someone else can answer on my behalf, I will delegate. But if you're not comfortable speaking out loud, if you just type that number into Slido, Simon will receive that and we'll get that anonymously. So let's say, what time is it now? 8:15. Let's just say 15 minutes. We'll regroup at 8:30, continue there, then another half an hour, and then have a few drinks, and I'm going to get on a sleeper back to Edinburgh. Thanks very much. got refreshments and all of that kind of stuff. I have to pull up slack because Simon's going to fire me some questions, and I will invite people in as and when it feels appropriate. I'm just trying to find you, Simon. Am I just staring at your name, Simon? I can't see it. Oh, there we are. Yeah, no, I'm actually on the thing. Thanks so much for the gift. I've checked with Gary. It's all right for me to gift on because of my sobriety, but good on you. Thank you so much. Great. Let's not start with that one, Simon. Is there another question? I'm not going to skip over it, but just want to warm up. Yeah, does anyone here have any questions they want to... Sir?
I was thinking, because this is like it's welcoming everyone, like people with experience, but also people with do you think like organizing workshops about sampling either the person or people that maybe don't have experience or people that have experience to actually improve?
Oh, sorry, yes. We might give up. You give them that. Thanks, Alan.
So yeah, I was saying, because this is like a project that involves everyone, people with experience, but people also that don't have experience. Maybe I was thinking, do you think it's a good idea to organize workshops where you teach basically with your experience about sampling, what could be done to, making a sample sound good, or what the process could be, and either be in person or like on YouTube.
Yeah.
So then everyone can, maybe focus its own attention to making it sound good. We have a kind of structure and guidance to achieve that.
I think it's a really brilliant idea, and something that I was hoping to do with Spitfire was this idea of providing localities with the means, support, and a certain degree of funding, so that it's not just about you've got to come to London or Edinburgh. I mean, I've got a really big dream with Edinburgh, is to build a place where people come to. I got in trouble for offering some of my Spitfire shares to a company that was selling a very famous mixing desk. Didn't mean it. It's just a joke. X. That's something that the hands-on thing I think is really important. I think it'd be really interesting to see how those work online. I know that there's a fantastic composer called Sides who does Logic tutorials, and she also does, she listens to people's demos and stuff like that. To a certain degree, I'm doing that with the Pianobook stuff, but I think there's a way of being more interactive. But I love the idea of, this is a great room actually. Thanks, Anna, for finding it. Of decamping to different cities and doing that, but also maybe setting up different hubs all over the place where people can invite. The other thing is kids love sampling, and I still find it amusing to speed up a fart on a sampler. It'll never not sound amusing. I'd be really, really sad if I ever got bored of that. But it's a really good idea, that, and I think that's something that we should put on our list of things. So.
That same idea, taking it another stage further, of maybe creating that kind of course, teaching others in the group to do it, and us taking it into our local communities as part of the audio incubator concept, and even maybe on the YouTube channel or whatever, having a Patreon page to help fund some of that.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I'm sure it would really be... the gentleman next to me here would love that, wouldn't you? Yeah, so would we all. Yeah. I mean, it's a very hard lesson. I've been trying to learn to sample for a while. It's taken me a long time watching your videos, Dave Hilowitz, Venus Theory, putting it all together, working out how to understand it, and apply it to a different DAW to what you guys are using.
Yes.
Because you use Logic.
Yeah.
I've got Cubase. And I've started to use Reaper because Dave Hilowitz is using Reaper. And, you know, I think probably Reaper is a great tool to base some of these things on because it's so affordable.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a very good point, and that's another great idea. And I think we should. Well, this is going to be on the YouTube channel, so it's duly noted. And yeah, that for me is one of the more annoying things about the YouTube channel is I'm meant to be switching to Cubase, but realise that a lot of people come to the channel because they are Logic users, but there's something inherently uninclusive about it because it's all about these bits of hardware. So totally agree. The other thing I find really frustrating is different manufacturers use different terminology. The worst of which is DP. Fucking hell. Chunks? What do you mean? We've got some questions online. I'll do a couple of these. Bruno Bizarro, will the Pianobook Discord server go on now with the Audio Incubator name? I'm not an expert here. I think that probably this leads back to the previous question, and that is making sure that whatever environment people are in that carries the Audio Incubator name reflects the culture that we're trying to build, and that's one of inclusivity. We've got a question here, will trans people be allowed to use Audio Incubator? And it's like, I don't believe anyone, because of any group, has ever been excluded from anything that I've been involved with. If I was personally to exclude trans people, that would be a family member. If I was to exclude black people, that would be a family member. The person who married my wife and I was trans. I know where this comes from, and I know that I haven't spoken outwardly about it. That's because what happened to me deeply affected my life and my family, and I'll just return back to the original slide, and that's thankfully, because of their support, I've not ended up under a bridge. I think that what is a shame, I didn't bring this issue into the community. It got brought in, and it wasn't moderated out. And I don't know whether I should have taken more responsibility there, but I would just advise us to keep talking about the things that are to do with music, to do with sound. I think just keeping religion, ideologies, political views out of the conversation there's plenty of places for that stuff. And I think that, again, just going back to this idea of music and harmony, I think that's what we should aim for. How you police that, I don't know. And this is where this question about Discord and whether that's the correct place for it. It's a really tough question. I'm not a transphobe. Was it clumsy to put my concerns as a parent up on Twitter? Possibly. But I don't believe, I believe I'm an inclusive human being who's worked hard for that, and I believe actions are stronger than words, which is why I've not really talked about it that much. That and to protect my family. But naturally, of course, anyone is welcome, and I mean absolutely anyone, and that's the whole fucking point of it. But also, love to the person who asked that, and if there is any feeling that you're not welcome, whether it's you or a friend, then I hope what I've said reassures you. So love to you, anon. Matt, will download counts be copied over when it moves to Pianobook to AudioInc? Pete?
Yes.
Basically, I think what we're going to do is we're going to just shift the database over. But I think with this chapter marker, I think it's important that we give people the opportunity to opt in. I think that will also mean that some of the slightly more dormant channels, as I refer to them, whatever we want to refer to them, will probably go into a archive section. I think what will be great about it is that when we do the transfer and people opt in, hopefully, just like people did with my claustrophobic piano, people reach out and go, "Oi, where's that gone?" And encourage people to opt in. Again, part of the community working together. And on that note, Stephen has been magic and has rescued all of my instruments.
They're all there. Yeah, we have them all.
We'll get them all back, but it just takes a while to get them up. So that's something that I'm working on. And lots of stuff coming up. I wish I could talk about it, but there is the potential of the most meteoric collaboration, which will be a global one. And it's something I really, really want to involve us all in. I won't be able to talk about it straight away, but I'm basically going to LA to talk to some very important people about this project, and I'm going to encourage them for us to talk about it from the get-go, because that's what made Pianobook successful, was this openness, and that's something that what I'm hoping to do by involving more faces, people wanting to appear on camera and stuff, is to log more of what we're doing. We've set up a blog on AudioInc that hasn't been updated. I'm going to try and do that. But again, any help that can be offered there would be really welcome. So.
Hello. This perfectly ties into my question, which is twofold. So you mentioned that AudioInc would have a different type of curatorship, at least in the beta version. So I wanted to ask if you could shed a little bit of light on how that would work, and if there will be opportunities for people to sort of know what is needed in order to volunteer.
Yeah, when I come to talk about curatorship, it's basically going to be effectively beta testers. It's going to be taking people in person through the process of learning to sample, uploading their first sample to a sandbox, getting feedback, how does that make them feel? Just testing the user experience, and that'll be through invitation. As I said, I'm hoping that AudioInc will have the functionality that currently exists with Pianobook, albeit easier to use, more feedback. But basically, I'm looking for 12 artists. I really want it to be a diverse set of artists. I have, I think, 3 or 4 people in mind to approach about that. One of them is a saxophonist. But I think what we'll probably do is we'll just go, listen, any of you know anyone who's never sampled anything in their life, is a great artist, makes amazing sounds. And there's loads of those people out there, to invite them in. And then, you know, to test all aspects of it, of like going, okay, well, this first one I'm going to do, and I'm going to help you with the branding and this, that, and the other. Okay, now with this second one, I'm going to put you together with, I'm not going to throw you under a bus, but I'm just going to say your name, Owen, to see how that particular exchange of skills and experience goes and stuff, just to test it out.
Thank you.
I think it'll be dangerous to do it as a free-for-all at first, because I think that if there's any radical change to anything, I think it needs to be done carefully and out in the open, see what people think.
And I would just say, just to add to that, Pianobook is still there. And so it's still the training ground. Like we talked about this idea of a sandbox being part of Audio Incubator. Well, Pianobook is still that sandbox. And so people who want to learn and get inspired by those stories, they will be shared. You know, you get, again, some of that fuel in the fire. If that inspires you, use Pianobook. Use Pianobook to get into it, because when we've ironed out the kinks of how it works and how do we finance and how do we get, whether we can get 15% and that, we can then be open about it and say, look, if you join up and you want to sell on this platform, we know how much it costs, you'll get a cut of this amount. So we'll learn that through this process, but don't stop. Like, use the Pianobook platform. It's a great platform. Use it to learn, to engage with it and follow along and get yourself to that position.
Yeah. And if you can, you know, if, you guys can, you know, if you know anyone else who has used it and stuff, you know, if you feel positive after this meeting, you know, do spread the word. And as I said, you know, I'm hoping to bring to us a massive project that I think we'll all really enjoy. So there's really some very exciting stuff ahead. There's also, I'm in partnership with someone with Crow Hill, and I'm not allowed to say who that is yet, but when I tell you, it's really exciting. And you know that we really have the backing of the absolute A-list of composers behind what we're doing, you know, and we, you know, that was one of the great joys when these big stars started using Pianobook and stuff. And I remember one of them saying to me, I want to give this guy a couple of grand because this score is just that sound. And it's like, yeah, well, let's allow that to happen.
Yeah, the moment I saw Gary Barlow's name on the download list of piano bookers, it was quite special, you know, and it's exciting for someone, as Owen said, in terms of that recognition, as people start to see that. And if we can build that into Audio Incubator more, like if you've used a sample and it's made it into a piece of track, please go back to the people and recognise them for what they've done and how they've inspired you.
Great. Thank you, Stephen.
You get some?
Oh, twice.
Andre.
Andre Louis, hi. So there was a talk about earning your stripes with Audio Incubator, and that's fine. But I know from myself that I have tried sampling called the lazy piano. Everybody hated it, quite rightly, because it had a whole bunch of noise in it. I want to do better, and that's fine. But until I can do better, can a lot of people who can play but maybe can't sample, can we make demos and earn our stripes that way? Because I'm a good demo writer, but I'm not a good samplist.
You're a fantastic demo maker and one of the most amazing finger drums I've ever witnessed. If you haven't checked out Andre's YouTube channel, what's it called, Andre?
Just my name, Andre Louis.
Andre Louis, check that out, subscribe. Stripes are going to be people contributing to the community, and I think this is going to be an interesting way to weight the database so that it's, you've done a bunch of sample libraries, they've been popular, you've done loads of demos, you've left loads of reviews, this, that, and the other. And I think that also the community, just like you do vote with sample libraries and say this is a 5-star, you know, I think that we should be able to kind of nominate each other and go, you know, this person really helped me out. And for that to be recognised as well as just your McDonald's stars on your sample library. So for me, I think that it's a key point, Andre, and I think you've helped really frame it. Is really reward should be for any interaction above and beyond just downloading some free samples. You know, I think that is, you know, the fact that, you know, people should be rewarded for putting their photo up, you know, so that it feels more like humans that we're dealing with and stuff like that. But I think that your comment has really helped us go, this is something that we should celebrate everything across the board. Anyone who is in service to the community should be rewarded.
This is more of a collaboration. Yeah. This is more of a collaboration to work with Andre, someone to work with him who's a great samplist, get that job done.
Yeah.
And that's the collaborations are what make the difference, isn't it?
Absolutely.
With regard to that, is there going to be a directory of people so they can contact people in their cities and collaborate in real life so they can get stuff done?
Absolutely. Something I've always wanted. This not only it's a showbiz thing, but there's a thing called Spotlight, where it's a big set of books, and basically every actor is in there with a photograph and how you can get in contact with them. And I've always thought that should be this, with people giving as much or as little information as they like. But it's a place where you can go, are they on AudioInc? Wallop, that's where to go. Famously on Spotlight, John Cleese has a photograph of a postbox. And he said to my dad, "Why do you put a photograph of a postbox in Spotlight?" And he went, "Because everyone knows what I fucking look like."
We've talked about this subject quite a lot as well, because it would be great to be able to find, okay, I'd like to make a cello library, I'd like to make a piano library, that's what I want to make, but I don't have those things. But maybe there's somebody in the community who can play it, who's got a microphone, but maybe doesn't have the skills to do the audio editing. Or maybe you're looking for an Owen who can do all your programming for you, or you've got looking for people. So again, that directory idea, we've been talking about it for quite a while, so I'm glad you brought it up. Glad it's sort of something that resonates.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
Thank you. Have you considered making any plugins for AudioInc or hosting plugins on AudioInc?
Absolutely. This is something that we're doing with Crow Hill, is we're making plugins, and it's a lot of fun. And yeah, I think that, to be honest, plugins, resources, courses, meetups, all of that kind of stuff. I think we have to be, you know, I'd love people to have a page where, you know, eventually Pete's going to lose sleep over this now, but where you can present whatever your strengths are, whether that's, you know, you've got a great SoundCloud, or, you know, so where people can go in and go, this is I'm going into this person's world, and they've got all of these things they do courses, they've, you know, whatever it is, local, like composer support groups, whatever, you know.
Have you ever considered making like a sampler instrument host for the AudioInc sounds?
I'm talking to a very good company who are very, very interested in this as a project.
Yeah, just to add to it, I mean, there are some amazing people out there. If you know Matt Bowdler, who's the Unfinished, and he makes a lot of synth patches. He makes some for Hans Zimmer, but he also releases them out there. Well, if you want to do that, this is the opportunity this rebrand gives us. Pianobook sort of narrowed the focus. But if you're interested in that level of creativity, you know, you can learn how to do it. You can be putting it out there, trying it out there, and then maybe you'll be working with Hans Zimmer at some point, or somebody else who you know, gathers inspiration from lots of people. So I think that's a great one. You had a question as well.
Is there any ideas for how to get sort of more people involved who might not even know this sort of thing exists? So we're talking about getting more musicians in, or more samplers, or more composers, but might not know that there are other companies aside from the big £500 libraries that are doing this, maybe by going to unis or filmmakers clubs or stuff like that. I've been to a few filmmakers meetups before where composers there didn't know that there were free samples even available just to access. So have you got any ideas for making that more building awareness around that?
Yeah, absolutely. Something that I've come to terms with, particularly with Crow Hill, is I'm not spending very much money on marketing, because it's not just the money, it's the energy that goes into marketing. And it's very, what's the word I'm looking for? You spend this money and it just goes. There's a lack of permanence to it. So something I'm really delighted about is I made a video about making the Top Gear theme, and that's got a Crow Hill advert in the middle of it. So I will always be an advocate for YouTube, and for the fact that if you put something up there, how to sample a teacup, and that has this huge reach and has this longevity. I mean, there's a thing that I made just off my own back called Orchestral Programming Day 1. It's had nearly 1 million views, and it's kind of an advert for Albion, and it's cost nothing to make. So whilst there will be the opportunity, and I would like to get editorials and that kind of stuff, I think it is the word of mouth, and word of mouth in this day and age is pretty powerful. But again, I think a little thing that we've done with Crow Hill is that we have creator download packs. We realize that people who make tech reviews have a vested interest in their thumbnails looking great. So we just basically put all of our high-res images into a pack that people can download. And I think that's probably something to be said about providing resources for people who do want to do something on YouTube and talk about Pianobook, to be able to create better, more kind of gripping content. And I think that's but it's a very good point. How do we get the word out there? Because we will find some extraordinary talent out there, and I have no doubt of it. I'll never forget, there was a piano uploaded, and it was their first sample instrument, and it was just insanely good. And you know, I think that you know, we should be, you know, singing loudly about this and this opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so earlier I talked about giving incentive to people that are first learning. And with that, I do think that it is enough to inspire them by highlighting them. But there comes a point where someone is skilled enough that they do need to benefit financially. And I can say from experience, when I got to the point where I was good enough to be paid for what I was doing, it was around the time when we started doing, I don't know if it's pronounced Ko-fi or Ko-fi, but it's similar to Patreon. Yeah, so personally, and I have a few products that are at the top of the list of the best rated. I believe I made about $15 from that. And then at Somerville Sounds, which is a company that I do with John Meyer, we do a pay what you want model for some of our products. Mm-hmm. And what the people that are interested in getting potentially free products, those people do not want to spend money on a product. There are two different groups of people. There are people that are expecting to pay and people that aren't. It's totally fine that they don't want to. But I do want to bring up the fact that if we were to do a Patreon model kind of thing, it would likely result in those people that are skilled enough to not be making enough from that. And I do believe that potentially we should look to other, because you said that we're privately funded and then crowdfunded as well. Personally, I don't think that there would be, I wouldn't be against ads being on AudioInc. And if you want it to be more personal, maybe you could restrict the ads to people that have contributed to the community. So I just want to kind of say, from personal experience, I've seen that when you are providing products on a free site, people that are downloading that do not want to pay money, and that's totally fine. That's totally fine. I'm not criticizing that in any way. It's just on a platform like that, people that do deserve money to the composers that use the website, they deserve quality products, and we don't want to have those people that are making quality products leave because they are not benefiting the way that they should be once they get to that level.
I totally agree, Owen, and this is the beginning of I think so often I've made decisions just egotistically going, this'll work, and it doesn't. I think what you need to do is set up an environment where things can be tested and tried, and I think that those ideas are excellent. I think that what we did with Pianobook is go, okay, we're just going to take it from this and put it into a Spitfire model, which again, I don't think is the right answer either. Thinking about, the way that AdSense works and, how, well, it's a very interested captive audience that I think could be quite valuable to advertisers. So I think it's certainly for consideration. I think that something that we should try and do, and I think we can just do this on Google Sheets, is actually be totally open about the decks that we're preparing, totally open about the plans that we're making for the website, and create a forum in which we can discuss these ideas, because it's actually the ideas that are really, really valuable. It's not just not sure if that's going to work, it's how about this? But I totally agree with you. Something I think is important to say is that I don't think that AudioInc will ever have any ownership of the IP, and I don't think possibly demand exclusivity. You may have feelings about that as well. What I'm hoping is that it is such a vibrant community and such a huge number of people coming to it that in itself offers value, provided there is the compensation as well. But I'm totally with you on that. Okay. One last question, anyone? Great. Well, listen, let's not make this a rare occurrence. I thank you so much, everyone who's travelled in and got expensive Ubers, Andre. Sorry about that. It's just been hugely valuable. We'll do our darndest to get to keep the conversation going, wherever that be. Maybe we'll set something up on the Crow Hill Discord. But as I say, I'm going to start preparing these decks, talking about crowdsourcing and the various different models that we're going to investigate, in order not just to be open, but to invite feedback. Again, Pianobook was a series of mistakes, and I just want us to be making the same right mistakes. And we have a lot of experience not to make the success into success problems. So your feedback is really valued, as is your commitment to it, as is the input that you're putting in, whether that be in demos, in reviews, or indeed sample libraries. And as I said, there's loads of exciting stuff to come. So I'd like us to applaud each other. What time are we being kicked out? 9:30. So